What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and today we have a bottle, Rebel 100, that we should have tried a long time ago. This used to be called Rebel Yell. We're going to talk a little bit more about that during the Bourbon Bomb of the Week, so make sure you stick around for that. But everybody knows before we get started, time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. I'd yell. So this bottle honestly flew under the radar for me for a long time. This is Lux Row Distilleries, which is owned by Luxco, which was bought out by MGP, used to be called Rebel Yell. Again, we're going to talk about all of that during the Bourbon Bomb of the Week. This comes in at 100 proof. It's non-age stated, and we do know it's a wheated mash bill, although we don't know the exact mash bill that comes with it. Now, I do also have a Rebel Yell single barrel, aged 10 years. This is also 100 proof, as well as a Rebel Yell 80 proof. These are obviously older bottles because they still have the yell on them, and maybe during the Bourbon Bomb of the Week, if we have some time, we'll compare it to this bottle right here. But for now, you know the rules: price, taste, drinkability. Rebel 100. Let's try this out and see what we think for drinkability. How much burn, how much ethanol kick does this truly have? Let's try it. I will say that is not bad at all, especially for the price point on this bottle. This has more of a heat to it than an actual burn, and the reason that I say that is because, have you ever taken pizza out of the oven and the first thing you want to do, you're starving, you just take a bite, and what's the first thing you do? You're like, right? You're breathing the hot air from that pizza in, and it hits the back of your throat, and you're like, this is hot, but it doesn't burn, and you just try and cool it down. That's kind of what you're getting here, right? The burn is on the front of the mouth, the heat hits the back of your throat, but it doesn't burn drinking it. It doesn't burn all the way down. It doesn't really give you that Kentucky hug, which for 100 proof is not bad at all. Now, we have a word in our Discord for something that's a little bit higher proof that you can just drink and drink and drink, and it doesn't even feel like you're drinking that high of a proof, and we say crushable, and I think we should start a scale. I don't think this quite reaches crushable, but at the end of the day, it's definitely up there towards the top. We're going to take one more sip and we'll give this a score when it comes to drinkability. All right, I actually might put this at crushable. I always say if it drinks at its proof, it starts at an 8. This definitely drinks under its proof for me. I'm going to give this, I got to put it in the 9s, like a 9.17 when it comes to drinkability on this. If it was higher proof and it drank like this, I'd go even higher, but a 9.17 seems like a fair spot for this. So up next, we're obviously going to get a taste on this, and this taste is a little bit different for me when it comes to wheated bourbons. A lot of the wheated stuff that I've had, other than like Larceny Barrel Proof, is usually in that Maker's Mark line, which is a lot right now of that wood finishing series or some staves projects that they're working on. So other than Larceny, this Rebel, and Maker's Mark, I don't have a lot of experience with wheated whiskey, and I'll tell you what I'm getting off of this right now. So the first thing that I notice is the mouthfeel on this. Super oily. It coats the entire part of your mouth, coats your tongue and everything like that. And I can't really tell. It's almost like a vegetable oil, like a corn oil, I would assume, being 51% corn since it is a bourbon. It almost feels like when... sounds disgusting, okay? But I was a kid. I used to eat popcorn by the bag, and you would open the bag of popcorn and you would scrape that butter off of the inside of the bag when you got like extra butter popcorn. And when you finished eating that, it left this oily residue in your mouth. And that's kind of what I'm getting here, minus the butter flavor, but that type of texture in my mouth when I drink this. So the next thing that I do think I'm getting out of this is kind of like a youthfulness to it. It almost has like a grainy taste to it, almost like that wheat, like a brand cereal or something like that. It's not bad by any means, but at the same time, it does taste just a little bit younger. I do want to compare this to the 10-year 100 proof to see if there's a real difference in that youth flavor, but for me, it does seem like it's at least a little bit on the younger scale when it comes to this whiskey right here. The middle of this glass also offers some more of those sweet notes that I was expecting when it came to a wheated whiskey. I get a lot of vanillas, a little bit of honey maybe on this, but then it really transitions right into oak, a little bit of spice on this, like a pepper or an allspice. It's not bad by any means, but it's also nothing like exceptional. There's nothing overwhelming about this. It's kind of a basic bourbon, if I were to say a basic wheated bourbon, but at the end of the day, let's take one more sip and give it a score. Again, are there better tasting bourbons on the market? Absolutely. Are there better tasting bourbons on the market for this price point? Probably not, but that's why we always incorporate price at the end. So strictly on taste when it comes to this, I'm going to give it like a 7.52. Again, I think it's a little bit above average, but it's nothing exceptional. And as you know, we end things with price, right? In this bottle, we'll keep it short and sweet for you, $19.99 when it comes to the price point on this. And you can't really be mad at that at all. Again, there's not too many bourbons out there that are under $20. And when you do find them, you're usually missing something. This basically has everything you're looking for when it comes to a bourbon, when it comes to the flavor profile. You've got the proof behind it. You got pretty good drinkability as well. So all that considered, I'm going to give this like an 8.72 when it comes to price on this. But listen, while I had these scores up, let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week and learn a little bit more about the history behind Rebel Yell and now Rebel and the transition and where this bottle has been and where it is now. Cheers, y'all. So Rebel Yell at the time was actually created in 1950 by a Kentucky politician to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Stitzel and Weller. But a lot has happened between 1950 and now, including in 1972 when Stitzel Weller went out of business, landing this brand at Diageo, which I feel like every brand has been with at some point. Rebel Yell then stayed with Diageo until 1999 when it was sold to the David Sherman Corporation, which in 2006 rebranded under Luxco. Now at the time, Luxco was not distilling their own product. They actually had nothing to do with the distilling side of things, but they did bottle their own product and they sourced it from, at the time, Heaven Hill, which was known even though that wasn't usually something people released. Now since then, Luxco has obviously gotten into the distilling game, including Lux Row Distilleries, and they were bought out in 2021 by MGP, renamed to Ross and Squibb, and blah, blah, blah. You know the story from there. But again, that begs the question of why Rebel instead of Rebel Yell, and again, we know the history of politics and whiskey is a tale as old as time, so I'm sure you can put the math together and figure out that this was probably a PR stunt, and that's why we have Rebel instead of Rebel Yell. What do you think? Hey, if you've made it this far in the video, I appreciate you sticking around. Make sure you click that like and that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 5,000 by the end of the year. But real quick, we're going to pour up this 10-year single barrel compared to what we were just drinking here and see which one we like better. It only takes a couple of sips to figure it out. This bottle is obviously better than this bottle over here, but this is also 10 years. This is also $60 compared to $20, and our $20 bottle came in at an 8.47. This is one of those bottles where I now have to go back through my collection, see what I have at $20 or less, and compare it to this bottle to see if this does not sit atop the list on $20 or less when it comes to my bourbon collection. But hey, that's where I'm going to leave you for today. Make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Go click that follow button over there. Check out our Patreon page. We have cool things just for Patreons, $3, $5, $10, whatever you want to do. We have a community that gets together once a month. We do great giveaways. We do awesome hangouts. So make sure you check out the Patreon page. We have a Discord page 24/7. Come chat with us over on Discord. Both of those links in the description below. Please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly and stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. Rebel Yell, or just Rebel.